The year is 1900, an age dominated by empires. The strong do what they will, and the weak suffer what they must. Southeast Europe was under the shadow of two ancient behemoths, the Austro-Hungarian Empire in the north and the Ottoman Empire in the south. These empires had seen better days. Internal instability from competing interests, nationalism, and an inability to innovate had left them lagging behind their Western European competitors. What is bad for the stability of your empire? Losing World War I. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in 1914 by Bosnian Serbs was the spark that ignited the Great War, leading to the downfall of these empires and success of the Slav nationalist movements. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 redrew the map of Europe, setting the stage for new nations to emerge from the ashes of the old empires. Among these new nations was Yugoslavia, a complex union of diverse ethnic groups, each with its own aspirations and historical grievances. The formation of Yugoslavia marked the beginning of a new chapter, but it was a chapter fraught with challenges and internal divisions. Following its defeat to the Allies in World War I, the Austro-Hungarian Empire fragmented into successor states, one of which was the state of Slovenes, Croats, and Serbs. The collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire led to the creation of several new states, each with its own aspirations and challenges. Nationalist movements gained momentum, seeking to carve out independent nations from the remnants of the old empire. Political leaders emerged, advocating for the rights and independence of their respective ethnic groups. The redrawing of borders in Europe set the stage for future conflicts and alliances, shaping the continent's political landscape for decades to come. The country formed in 1918 as the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovens. This union aimed to unify the South Slavic peoples under one nation, driven by a shared desire for independence and self-determination. In 1922, the state changed its name to Yugoslavia, meaning Land of the South Slavs. This name change symbolized the unity and collective identity of the South Slavic people, encompassing various ethnic groups with a common cultural and historical heritage. In 1941, German, Italian, and Hungarian forces invaded Yugoslavia, leading to widespread destruction and chaos. After 11 days of resistance, an armistice allowed the Axis powers to occupy and split up Yugoslavia, fragmenting the country. This event marked the rise of an essential figure in Yugoslav history, Tito. Josip Broz Tito, born to a Croat father and Slovene mother, was drafted into the Austro-Hungarian Empire Army during World War I and captured by the Russian army. His experiences during the war and time in Russia shaped his political ideology. After returning to the Balkans in 1920, Tito found the empire he fought for no longer existed. He became an organizer within the Communist Party of Yugoslavia, quickly becoming a prominent figure. Tito became a hero through the Yugoslav guerrilla movement against Nazi occupation and consolidated his control over Yugoslavia, becoming its premier in 1945. Tito's partisans were instrumental in resisting the Axis forces and liberating the country. Under Tito's leadership from 1945 until his death in 1980, Yugoslavia maintained internal cohesion while suppressing nationalistic movements within its 6 republics and 2 autonomous provinces. Tito's policies aimed at balancing the diverse ethnic groups and preventing any single group from dominating the others. Tito survived multiple assassination attempts by Stalin, moving communist Yugoslavia away from the communist bloc. His practical nature gained him prestige on the global stage, being one of the founding members of the non-aligned movement. His diplomatic efforts helped Yugoslavia gain international recognition and maintain its independence from both the Western and Eastern blocs. Tito's legacy is complex. While credited with maintaining Yugoslavia's unity and independence, his authoritarian rule and suppression of dissent have been criticized. The dissolution of Yugoslavia in the 1990s and the subsequent conflicts in the Balkans have further complicated his legacy. Nonetheless, Tito remains a significant figure in the history of the region, symbolizing both the aspirations and challenges of the South Slavic peoples. The end of Tito and central authority marked a turning point for Yugoslavia. The 1974 constitution devolved power to the republics and autonomous provinces, weakening the federal government. This weakened the bonds binding the Yugoslav states. After Tito's death in 1980, secessionist movements in Croatia and Slovenia gained momentum. The collapse of communism in Eastern Europe eroded Yugoslavia's political stability under democratic movements. The West's attention shifted away from Yugoslavia towards former Warsaw Pact countries, and aid from the Soviet Union ceased, undermining economic support for Yugoslavia. The absence of a Soviet threat removed an incentive for unity. As in much of the communist world, the 1980s saw economic decline and widespread public dissatisfaction. Slovenia and Croatia were more industrialized, had superior infrastructure, and opposed socialist wealth equalization programs across the nation, feeling that the other member states should invest in their own industry rather than receive handouts. This fueled calls for greater autonomy and secessionist movements. Slobodan Milosevic rose to power, using Serbian ultranationalism to fan conflict. His policies had backlash in the other republics and accelerated the breakup of the Yugoslav Federation. The weight of ethnic tensions, economic decline, and inequality proved too much for the fragile unity of the Yugoslav states. On June 25, 1991, Slovenia and Croatia declared their secession from the Yugoslav Federation. Macedonia, now North Macedonia, followed suit on December 19th, and in February-March 1992, Bosniak Muslims and Croats voted to secede. As civil war raged, Serbia and Montenegro created a new federation, adopting a new constitution on April 27, 1992. The Yugoslav army briefly intervened in Slovenia, but it withdrew after 10 days, effectively confirming Slovenia's separation. Croatia declared independence, along with Slovenia, which was boycotted by Croat Serbs. The Serb minority in Croatia declared its own independence from the Republic and its desire to join Serbia, sparking violence between armed militias. The Yugoslav army intervened in the conflict ostensibly to separate the combatants, but it became quickly apparent that it favored the Croatian Serbs. The war that followed devastated Croatia, resulting in tens of thousands dead and hundreds of thousands of people displaced. In Bosnia-Herzegovina, a referendum on independence took place in March 1992. However, the poll was boycotted by the Serb minority. The Republic declared its independence from Yugoslavia in May 1992, while the Serbs in Bosnia declared their own areas an independent republic. After Bosnia and Herzegovina's independence was recognized by the United States and the European community on April 7th, Bosnian Serb paramilitary forces immediately began firing on the Bosnian city of Sarajevo, and the artillery bombardment of the city by Bosnian Serb units of the Yugoslav army began soon thereafter. Most of the local Bosniak population was expelled from these areas. the first victims in the country of a process described as ethnic cleansing. NATO strategic bombing had already begun at the request of the UN, but following the Srebrenica genocide, in which more than 7,000 Bosniak Muslim boys and men were slain by Bosnian Serb forces, NATO bombing intensified. The resulting Dayton Accords called for a federalized Bosnia and Herzegovina, in which 51% of the land would constitute a Croat Bosniak federation and 49% a Serb republic, Republika Srpska. Following the Dayton Agreement of 1995, Republika Srpska was recognized as an entity within Bosnia and Herzegovina. Macedonia itself also declared independence following a September 1991 referendum, and a US peacekeeping and monitoring force was dispatched to the border with Serbia to monitor violence. Trouble was still brewing in Kosovo, a region of Serbia that was majority ethnic Albanian. Calls for Kosovo independence were not receiving much international attention, with a group of Kosovo militants concluded violence was their path to independence. A civil war in Albania in the 1990s paralyzed the state and allowed weapons to flow into Kosovo, increasing the violence further. The West alleged that Serbia embarked on a campaign of ethnic cleansing targeting Albanians, which prompted a NATO response. The response did not receive UN approval and remains a point of contention between the West, Russia and China. A NATO bombing campaign and economic sanctions forced the Milosevic regime to accept NATO-led international peacekeeping force. With the economy crumbling, Milosevic lost his grip on power in 2001, was arrested, and turned over to the International Crimes Tribunal in The Hague. In 2008, Kosovo declared independence and was recognized by the United States and most European states, despite Russian objections. On June 3, 2006, Montenegro declared its independence, which was recognized by the Serbian parliament 2 days later. The wars in the Balkans created a massive refugee crisis, with millions displaced and seeking asylum in various parts of Europe. In the aftermath of the wars, Slovenia and Croatia began the arduous process of recovery and rebuilding, focusing on economic development and integration into European structures. Bosnia and Herzegovina faced significant challenges in post-war recovery, relying heavily on international aid and peacekeeping efforts to stabilize the region. Kosovo's path to recovery was marked by efforts to gain international recognition and rebuild its war-torn infrastructure, with significant support from the international community. Serbia, after the fall of Milosevic, embarked on a journey of democratic reforms and economic recovery, seeking to mend its international relations and integrate into global institutions. Montenegro, following its independence, focused on development and European integration, aiming to establish itself as a stable and prosperous nation in the Balkans. The Balkan region as a whole has seen efforts towards regional cooperation and peace building, with various initiatives aimed at fostering stability and economic growth. The European Union and NATO have played crucial roles in the stabilization and development of the Balkans, providing support and guidance for the region's integration into European and transatlantic structures. Amidst the recovery, there has been a cultural revival in the Balkans, with efforts to preserve and celebrate the region's rich heritage and diverse traditions. Youth initiatives and programs have been pivotal in shaping the future of the Balkans, focusing on education, innovation, and cross-cultural understanding to build a brighter future for the region. Yugoslavia underwent 2 major rounds of UN embargo in response to Yugoslav Wars. The first round of sanctions, imposed in response to the Bosnian War and Croatian War, lasted from April 1992 to October 1995, placing Yugoslavia under a United Nations embargo. It recorded the third worst hyperinflation in world economic history, both by its duration of 22 months, from March 1992 to January 1994, and at the maximum monthly level in January 1994 of 313,563,058%. During the Kosovo War, what was left of Yugoslavia faced sanctions again. The sanctions severely impacted the economy of Serbia and Montenegro, with Serbia's GDP dropping from $24 billion in 1990 to below $10 billion in 1993, and $8.66 billion in 2000. Post-war Yugoslavia saw significant economic reforms and rebuilding efforts to stabilize the economy and improve living conditions. International aid played a crucial role in the region's economic recovery, with programs aimed at rebuilding infrastructure and supporting growth. Local businesses reopened, and markets buzzed with activity, signaling a slow return to normalcy. Educational reforms were implemented, with schools reopening and new curriculums introduced to foster a new generation of educated citizens. Healthcare systems improved, with hospitals being rebuilt and medical services becoming more accessible. Foreign investments flowed into the country, leading to new businesses and job opportunities. Infrastructure development was a key focus, with new roads and buildings constructed to support the growing economy and improve connectivity. Slovenia joined the EU in 2004, followed by Croatia in 2013. The other former Yugoslav states are candidate members, aligning with the EU market and legislation. Slovenia, Croatia, Montenegro, and North Macedonia are now members of NATO. Serbia retains close cultural links to Russia. They see themselves as Slavic brothers sharing cultural traditions and the Eastern Orthodoxy religious sect. Russia supported Serbia by opposing NATO intervention in Yugoslavia and does not recognize Kosovo independence. Serbia is one of only 2 countries in Europe not to impose sanctions on Russia in response to the Ukraine war, the other being Belarus. Despite ties with Russia, Serbia pursues European Union integration. China has taken an interest in the region, investing over 30 billion euros into various infrastructure projects. Relations between Serbia and China have been particularly warm. For China, this represents an opportunity to retain an ally on the EU's doorstep, and a potential ally should Serbia join the EU. Despite occasional flare-ups in regions such as Kosovo, the healing process in the Western Balkans is underway. The history of this region is complex and nuanced, with many inhabitants holding on to deep-seated resentments. As we contemplate the future, it is crucial to remember and understand the past, ensuring that history does not repeat itself. Thank you for listening.